The NASCAR Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off your Shady Rays using promo code SGPN, and then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. We're also brought to you by our Kentucky Derby contest. The winner gets a $100 SGPN gift card exclusively on the SGPN app.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
As we move further into the week, of course, this is the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. We are talking DFS because it is, of course, a Thursday. Well, for us, for you, it could be Friday, it could be Saturday, whatever. I don't know your podcast listening habits, but whenever you are, we're talking DFS for the Advent 400 in Kansas. Cody's already got it, half of himself in Kansas City right now. I think he's just like trying to get this over with so he can hurry up and get there to watch the race. I know you're excited for this one, Cody. This one is perfect for you because you get to see it live.
Yes, I'm so pumped up. About probably 36 hours from now, maybe a little less even. I'll be on the road, on the way to Kansas City. I'm excited. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. I love going to races in person. I love watching it on TV every week, but nothing like being at a race. It's unlike any other sporting event, in my opinion. If you've never been to a race, make it happen. Even just go to your local dirt track or something, but those are always amazing too. But going to a NASCAR race in person, it's the way to go. You will not regret it. People who don't even know the single thing about NASCAR, I've gone with some people, work trips, stuff like that, and they just love it. They have a great time the whole time. It's always a blast. It's always a lot of fun. So definitely get to the closest track to you. Unfortunately for me, I only have one track close to me. Luckily, it's a good track, though. Kansas always provides some really good racing, and it's always full of action. So it is not a boring track at all to go to. I get jealous of some of these East Coast guys that have, 15 tracks within 3 hours of them. And I have one this one's about 3.5 hours, and then it's a good 10 to 12. Or, well, I think they're, St. Louis now, so that's about 8.5. But nothing else is close.
Hey, last year was your first year though as a credentialed media member, and that probably, what was that experience like versus the regular fan experience?
Yeah, it makes it a little different for sure. I had gotten a hot pass once before through a sponsored deal that I had, but so I'd been down in there in the pit road and stuff before, but I mean the media part gives you even more access, so that was pretty cool. Going back my second time, now I kind of know how things went. Plus, I just went for the Cup race last year. I'll be there for the ARCA race, be there for the truck race this year as well. So, yeah, super pumped up. It's going to be a blast. I'm excited. I've had a few people reach out that want to meet up. So, yeah, hit me up in the DMs if you're going to be there. I'll try and say hi to as many people as I can. Should be a good time.
Cody, the celebrity. Do we need to send an
It's
escort with
2 or 3 people? It's not that many, but
listen, it doesn't matter. You are already a person in the know. People are going to see that NASCAR Gambling Podcast placard. They're going to go, "Oh, I know you. You're Cody Zeeb." So get ready for all that. Yes, definitely follow along with Cody's adventures on Twitter at NASCAR Gambling. We are super excited about that. Again, this is, like I said, the DFS episode for Kansas. If you have yet to go back and listen to the betting episodes, of course, we have the the truck episode. I don't even remember what day it is. The truck episode, and then, of course, the Cup episode. out there as well. So much fun to break down. We talked a little bit. I know that some people only listen to this DFS episode, Cody, because they don't play, they don't gamble, they don't live in gambling states. So this is the only action they can get. But I will tell you, go back and listen to those episodes because again, with DFS, we really only cover about 6 drivers, but with those betting episodes, we cover a large gambit of drivers. We talk about a lot of them. And I mean, yes, they're for betting purposes, but for the DFS episode, you can get a lot of information from those betting episodes to kind of partner with the DFS. If you could put up with gambling talk, I mean, we talk about the drivers, right? We talk about a lot of drivers up and down the card. So it gives you a little bit more insight into which drivers we're on, because for this show, we only give you the 6 drivers. And that's by design. You know, obviously we don't want to flood you with a bunch of drivers because then you leave this episode going, well, then who do I play? We're trying
we could go through and make a case for most anybody, right?
Yeah. So we're trying to give you something to work with, right? So
well, and I think that's a great point. Like, because if you go back and listen to the betting episode, if we're on so many avenues cross when it comes to betting and DFS or I mean, there's a bunch of fantasy NASCAR leagues out there. I'm in a bunch of different ones, and like there are different, you have to do different tiers of guys, or you have different prices. You have to fit it within a salary similar to DFS and stuff. So it's not always just like you need the top plays. And obviously with DFS, you have a salary cap, all of that stuff. So definitely go back and listen to the betting episode, because if we talk about them on the betting episode, you can translate that into DFS, into fantasy. If we talk about them on the DFS show, you can also translate that over into betting. And I try sometimes, there's a lot of crossover, of course, because if you like some of the guys, you like some of the guys, but I try to pick some different guys also to highlight here where maybe I didn't find a bet that I loved, or sometimes there's not enough room to get all the bets I like in there, of course. But, and you can find different guys over here and that you can value more in DFS. But a guy like Josh Berry, we talked about a bunch on, in the Cup Series betting show, he's a great DFS play this week. We're not going to highlight him this week. We've already talked about him enough. I think everybody, if you listen to that show, knows where we stand on him, knows we expect him to have a solid day. So he's going to be a great play as well. So I think that going back and listening, and then of course, if you play Truck or Xfinity DFS, we don't have enough time to that's the thing. We only have so much time, right? We could talk here for hours, but and we do sometimes. But yeah, I mean, if you go back and listen to the Truck episode, you're going to know, like, we're super high on Kyle Busch, so flood him in all your DFS lineups, right? And then some of the other guys that we, have pointed out, highlighted, that have good history at Kansas or have been doing certain things at comparable tracks, stuff like that. You can use all that information both ways, right? It translates from betting to fantasy. It translates from fantasy to betting, and it all kind of interlocks together.
Yes, it does. So connect all the dots. That's our kind of backhanded way of saying download all the episodes, because we want you to listen for sure.
Bingo.
But all right, we'll continue
and get all
on
the
this.
Information.
Exactly. Well, I mean, listen.
That's the most important part.
Do what you do, but just download the episodes, damn it. That's all we're trying to ask you to do. So listen, we'll come back. We'll take a break real quick. We'll come back and finish up setting up this race from Kansas. But we'll do that after we tell you about Shady Rays. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May. Not only do you get an amazing 50% off, but you also have a chance to win $500. Shady Rays has got you covered from the slopes to the sun with premium polarized sunglasses, customizable snow goggles, and so much more. Shady Rays have got durable frames and extremely clear optics for all of your outdoor adventures. And of course, that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. And I mean this. Every pair of sunglasses that you get from Shady Rays is backed by lost and broken replacements. What does that mean, Rod? Well, that means that if you take your Shady Rays out of the box, you drop them and you step on them on accident, because why would you do that on purpose? I don't know anybody that does. 10 seconds after you buy the shades, they're going to replace them for you for free, and they won't even ask you why or how it happened. That's the best part about it. I like to have little questions asked as humanly possible. I'm not a smart guy. I do dumb things. So if less people ask of me, the better off we are. So I know you're smarter people. You don't have to really hide from them. Just get your Shady Rays replaced for free. Plus, if you don't love them, you can return them or exchange them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. That team's always got your back. How do you do this? Well, go to shadyrays.com. Use the promo code SGPN. You get 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Not just that, but take your receipt then to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win the $500 Shady May contest. I love when our company does fantastic things like this, giving $500 away for practically free, but you just have to buy yourself probably the first and last pair of sunglasses you're going to buy yourself in a very long time.
That sounds like a win-win, Rod.
Sorry. I felt the need to tag onto that one because, I'm a big fan of the SGPN, not just because I host on it, but because I was a fan, just like you first.
100%. I mean, that's how I'm here. I was a huge fan, and that's all I was. And then now here we are, 100 and I don't even know. This is like 160, 70 episodes into this thing. We're all over the place, writing all kinds of articles on all kinds of shows. And yeah, I mean, that's how it all started out. I was just a fan of SGPN, loved listening to all the different shows. And now here we are.
Now he's just behind the microphone making
but
it all
that's
possible.
why I love them too, because they've done all these things all along, like all these fun contests and obviously great content, giving good picks, and across the whole entire network. I mean, now there's almost 40 shows. I think there's like 30 plus shows, I believe, at this point. You can get specific to any sport you want. Of course, the main show is amazing. Those guys are the best. But yeah, you can get everything you want on this network. You don't even need to go anywhere else.
If you can bet on it, by chance, we got somebody out there covering it for you. All right. Speaking of which, that's how this show was born. And this is how we're giving you DFS advice for the Advent 400 from the Kansas Speedway in Kansas City. 267 laps around this 1.5 mile paved track for a 400-mile race. We're talking laps led around this track. We talked 267. Last season, Alex Bowman led 107 of those laps, so almost half. 116 went to Kurt Busch the year before. Now, of course, not all of them ended up winning the race. Alex Bowman didn't win that race. But Kyle Larson led 130 in the spring race here. I'm sorry, it was the fall race of 2021. So the track trends tell you that somebody's going to lead a lot of laps. In fact, Kyle Larson led 132 of the spring race in 2021 as well. So the need to identify somebody that's going to lead a lot of laps is a little heightened in this instance. Obviously, we're trying to build our DFS lineups with that in mind. And then, of course, we want place differential. And thankfully, Cody, there's no weather in Kansas that's going to make this metric thing really screw us.
It's going to be hotter at the Kansas race on Sunday than it will be at the Miami Grand Prix down in Miami. I think it was Jeff Gluck tweeted that out today. Thought that was pretty crazy. It's officially summer here in the Midwest. We just skipped right over spring. It was like 32 degrees last week. It was like 95 today. So it's one extreme to the other. Here we are. But yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. I don't think the metric is going to come into play at all. Nice warm weather. Might throw in some tire wear and change some things up a little, which would be fun. But this is going to be a good one. Man, I'm so pumped, Rod. I can't wait. I'm just like, this week has been the longest week ever, just waiting to get to the track.
Well, whatever happened, we got tons of rain today. We jumped from 40 to like 90 as well, but now we're back to pouring down rain in California. It's nuts, but
could send a little bit of that our way because it's been rather dry here.
I'll blow it back.
Well, not till after this weekend though. We get the race in with no rain.
Oh, yes, please. So for DFS purposes, like we said, we're definitely kind of getting we're trying to find that balance like you always are each and every week. Obviously, we've kind of highlighted some drivers this week that we think are going to lead a ton of laps because they have been hot on the money or they've led a ton of laps here in the first place. I know that for me, I'm weighing a lot of what's been going on lately because if you've noticed trends, they've sort of been and it doesn't always line up to what the track history says. And in fact, the last couple of weeks have been sort of trend bucking as far as what we've seen.
Very much so.
Right. And so to me, that signals that there's a lot of drivers out there that are due for some sort of regression, I guess is what the kids in the industry call it. But I'm looking to see what's going to continue to happen with what they've already built up versus what we've seen in them in the past. It sounds so generic, but like, I think this season, among other seasons, it just a weird mix of this is all new, yet it's not new at the same time, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, 100%. It completely does. And it's so hard on a week-to-week basis to pinpoint, like, who's going to have the speed, who's going to get the track position. That's a huge part of it. Like, we've called out Denny Hamlin multiple times lately, and we've been correct that he's had the fastest car and he's making the good passes and all that stuff. But then his pit crew just fucks him every time and he never gets up front. And then it doesn't necessarily pay off from a DFS aspect of things. And so it's finding that balance. Obviously, the starting lineup, matters a lot. If Kyle Larson ends up starting on the pole, then you're likely going to have to play him because there's a good chance he could jump out and lead a good portion of this race early. Or, if it's Kyle Busch or if it's Denny Hamlin. So obviously pay attention to the starting lineup. We say that every week, of course, but we've obviously got some guys that we've pointed out that we think are going to be good. This one is kind of a little bit, again, we're changing track size, we're changing distance, and laps led and fast laps still important, right? There's 267 of those available, but it's not as much as like last week where you had, 400 laps at Dover. So you still have to hit those guys, but finishing position, place differential means a little bit more here than it did last week because there's a little bit less laps led, but you've still got to figure out who's going to get that dominant stretch and lead those green flag laps where things are just, falls to the wall and it's one guy out front.
And you just hope they stay there and stay toward the front, because like we saw last week with Kyle Busch, it's just, one wrong move can send you absolutely plummeting to the back, and you definitely don't want that to happen. All right, well, listen, I tell you what, I think it's time to start setting up some of our favorite plays for the week. As we always do, we break it down by our high price driver, the mid-tier driver, and then of course our value drivers. You don't always have to put every driver we put in one, although you can fit most of them in a lineup. You can try and let us know how it goes, or you can mix match and do your own things. But we'll do that after we take a quick break to tell you about Underdog Fantasy, because we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania 4 is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Plus, there's plenty of ways to win with the NBA, NHL, and MLB, all their player props going on. Right now, head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. Yes, cars are on the track this weekend, but horses are on the track as well, because it is Kentucky Derby week, and the notorious OTB, brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is here for all of your Triple Crown bets. Plus, leave a review for the show wherever you get your podcast between now and the Belmont Saturday, June the 10th. You're going to get entered into a drawing to win a canvas print of the Wolves' one-of-a-kind Fallen Bob painting. It is post time. And we have a bonus contest exclusively on the SGPN app. You're only going to hear it here first. The winner gets a $100 SGPN gift card, a bonus Kentucky Derby contest. Go get the SGPN app. Get in on that action. I know horses can't run around racetracks, but I feel like that might be,
Well, they do run around racetracks.
Well, okay, but not around a mile and a half oval bank track. Wouldn't that be something?
The banking on these tracks is incredible, though. It'd be tough for the horses. I'm telling you. You go, if you ever get a chance to, a lot of times they'll let fans down on the front stretch and stuff for these pre-race activities and stuff. Do that if you get the chance. It's a lot of fun, but it's incredible, the banking, and like it's hard to even just like stand there because it doesn't look like it on TV, and even in person, it's kind of hard to tell until you're on it. Like, the banking is incredible. It really is pretty sweet.
It's not hard to stand on Sonoma's straightaway, I'll tell you that.
There's not much banking there. Try like Martinsville, you're not getting much
elevation
banking,
is more what it is.
Yeah. Go to these. I can't imagine like a Daytona where it's so much more banked, but yeah.
Be fun to roll down. All right, let's get these guys' DFS lineup set up for you. Let's start with our high price driver. Who do you got this week, Cody?
Yeah, I'm going to dip to a little bit on the lower side of the high price guys. And man, again, this guy, I feel like I have to take him. It's Ross Chastain, the watermelon man. He is the 7th highest priced driver on the slate, only 9,600 compared to Kyle Larson's 11,200. But he's been getting it done. I mean, So you go back and you look at Auto Club. He finished third there, so nice, solid, finishing position. He led 91 laps that day. Again, that's a 2-mile track. This is a 1.5, but the intermediate package, similar in size, very comparable. He finished 12th place at Vegas. That is a 1.5-mile track. Didn't get the laps led there, but still had a very solid day. He started 8th in that race, so it wasn't as impressive. Could have used the laps led, but go back to last week. Again, only a mile track. This is a 1.5 miles, but still the intermediate package. Looked very, very fast. Had arguably, one of the better one of the best cars for sure. Top 3, I would say, him, Hamlin, and Truex, I think. And I guess you could throw Byron in there probably as well. Kind of stood out above everyone else, but he led 98 laps, finished 2nd place. Last week, he scored you 97 points after starting in 14th. 41 fastest laps laid down in that one. Go back to Auto Club. He had 22 fastest laps in addition to those 91 laps led. So Chastain can score you some big points. Got the momentum coming off of last week. Again, there's that little bit of maybe somebody wrecks him, maybe they don't, but we've not really seen it, right? Nobody's doing anything to do that, to retaliate to him. Last week, some guys held him up, maybe cost him the win, but still got a solid day, a solid result. And I think for DFS purposes, he's a guy you've got to keep plugging in here. He's already shown on the 3 intermediates we've had this season, including last week, one of the fastest cars. I don't see why that would go away now. You go back to last season here, he ended up finishing 7th in both races. So he had speed in both of them as well. And I think that continues this weekend for Ross Chastain.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the big narrative, of course, of Ross Chastain is that somebody's going to wreck him, just like you said. We talked about it a little bit in the betting show that I don't know that we are – I think maybe we're overblowing this retaliation thing as far as who's going to get Ross Chastain finally. Or maybe the entire field is just playing possum, and next thing you know, they're going to jump up on him one race. I don't know, whatever, but –
I mean, honestly, well, we kind of talked about it last year and it didn't really happen then either, but I think you save it. You get him in the playoffs where it hits, where he gets eliminated. And I guess nobody really got that chance or didn't take it last year. Obviously made the Final Four on a literal Hail Mary. But yeah, again, it's until somebody actually goes out and does something. Brennan Poole's in this race, so watch out, maybe. But I doubt it.
I think that 15 front bumper is going to get very, very large as we get toward that one car.
He did say somebody needs to kick his ass. So
yes, he did.
I would love to witness that fight on pit road.
I'd probably, well, listen, that would be you. Yeah,
I'd be down right in the middle of that. Let's go.
Yeah,
let me get a swing.
Footage to have Cody right there with it. All right, for my high price driver, I'm going to go with the current or the recently unretired Martin Truex Jr. He's at $10,000, but listen, I was going to ask this question before I even revealed who my guy was, but if I was to ask you who has the highest average of fantasy points per race this season, you would probably tell me guys like, I don't know, William Byron.
I think you brought this up recently, so I probably would have guessed Truex.
You probably would have guessed Truex.
You've already gotten me on this one, but
because Martin Truex has a 43.7 fantasy points per race. Right behind him is William Byron at 43.6, Chastain at 43.1. But I'm telling you right now, guys, I mean, he's been utterly consistent week in and week out. Obviously, got that big win for you last week, scored you 93 points. That's just a whopping total right there. But, he's turned in 50, 58, 56, and then 34, 38, 22. But again, over the last 5 weeks, he's scored you at least 50 fantasy points and has done some fantastic things. And for all that we kept bagging on him last season, well, you kept bagging on him, Cody, last season, Mr. Retired number 19, all he's done here at Kansas is finish inside the top 10 in all but one race since 2017. You got to go back to 2019, first of all, for his last finish outside of the top 10. But then before that, 2017, where he won back-to-back races in that span. His first place in the fall, spring, first place in the fall. He finished second in the spring of 2018, fifth in the fall of 2018. Then, of course, that 19th place finish. But then after that, 6th, 3rd, 9th, 6th, 7th, 6th, 5th. I mean, I'm not talking that the consistency is a thing all the time, but that dude's been consistent. You look at his last few races, right? 3 out of his last 4 have all been top 10s as well. 7th at Bristol Dirt, 3rd at Martinsville. Bad day at Talladega. I don't think that was necessarily his fault. That's Talladega. That's what happens. But first place at Dover. He did end up leading 19 laps, though, at Talladega, 56 laps in Richmond. He's been in front this season. For all that we want to say that he's been off and hasn't been great, Truex is back, and he's kind of back in a way that scares me. I don't know if it scares me, but makes me excited to play him in DFS this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm back fully on, well, maybe not fully, but I'm back on the Truex train for sure. Wrote him up in my article this week. Top 5 finish. I think you might have even given that out on the show as well earlier this week. I mean, the results have been there lately. He's been performing better. He's got that win off his back now. The talk of the streak is over and all that stuff. He's, according to the NASCAR interns that don't know what they're doing, he's locked into the playoffs, of course. But he's at least got his ticket punched for now, and likely will be in the playoffs, of course. And so, I have no argument here. And again, he's the 6th highest priced guy on the field here, and a $1,200 discount from Kyle Larson. Again, we're not telling you not to play Kyle Larson because he's Kyle Larson and he can do Kyle Larson things, of course, although he's burned a lot of people here lately. But this is 2 top tier guys that you're getting at a fairly good discount compared to the very top of the board that can allow you to slide in those difference makers later on. So, I think that these 2 guys are a great start to highlight at the top of the board, and maybe you take Larson and pair with one of them, or, if you William Byron, Denny Hamlin, whoever else you believe in, Tyler Reddick, of course, talked about him on the betting show as well. But you could take either one of these guys, pair them with one of those top guys, and I think that's a good start to your lineup.
It's pretty amazing how deep of a discount. I mean, $1,200 doesn't seem like a deep discount, but it's a pretty deep
when you get down to Brennan Poole compared to, I mean, really, and that is the thing. So you go down to Josh Bilicki at 4,500. Well, if you save 1,200, that can put you up to 57 area where you're getting a Corey LaJoy rather than a Josh Bilicki, or you're getting a Todd Gilliland rather than a Brennan Poole. It can make a huge difference for you later on. Or, you can also parlay that to the middle of the field, however you want to build it, but it gives you so much more flexibility as you continue to build farther on.
Well, then we will continue to help you build farther along and take a step down in tiers when we come back from the break. Well, I want to take a second to thank each and every one of you out there who have been watching our YouTube channel, who have been subscribing, who have been leaving comments, who have been ringing the bell, and just making our little tiny presence on YouTube grow ever so much over the last couple of months. It's been weird to me. First of all, I'm not like I said, I've never been a YouTube guy, never been somebody that thought I'd be on YouTube with any sort of consistency. So the fact that you guys are continuing to support it just means the world to me. I know it means the world to Cody. Definitely means the world to the bosses, because my paycheck keeps clearing, and that's because you guys continue to download and to watch and to keep those views present for the bosses to know that you're still with us. So continue to do that. We will continue to put out the content for you and be happy to do so. But then again, if you're a listener on the OG platforms as well, leave a review. We love those as well. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, right? Even if it's from a second hand, you could tell your buddy a review. I mean, it doesn't show up anywhere, but I don't care. Tell your buddy that the show's good and have them download. That's another number in our favor as well. I don't swim in the world of numbers, but the guys that pay the checks do. So please help those come along and help us to continue to put the show out. All right, Cody.
Well
Done
said,
pandering.
Ron. Well said.
Done pandering. No, I love this. This show has been such a fun ride. You said it's been 169. This is episode 169. Nice. Next will be 170. We've kind of blown past so many what they call, landmark episodes.
Well, it's 200. We'll circle that. Maybe we can do something like we did. That 100 episode show was so much fun. Got to answer a bunch of personal questions, a bunch of, questions about how we got into the stuff, all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to circle that one in a couple months when we get there and do something special again.
That'll be fun. Definitely. All right. Well, we do something special each and every day, and that's help folks win some money and set up lineups and bets. So let's continue to do that with our mid-tier drivers.
Let's do that. And yeah, next up for me, a guy that I just cannot quit, Ty Gibbs, 7,800. His price is creeping up. We've talked about it, right? He was cheap for a while. 71 last week, 66 the week before, 69, nice the week before, 67. Yeah, I mean, he was all the way down at 5,900 a few weeks ago. So his price is definitely creeping up, but that's because the results have been there. Last week at 7,100 at Dover, started 24th, finished 13th, had 7 fastest laps throughout the day, 44.2 fantasy points. Should have had a much better finish if his crew could figure out how to get enough fuel in the car. I think that would have been the case. But Ty Gibbs is just, I mean, this salary is probably not going back down anytime soon. It's going to continue to climb. He's in a Joe Gibbs racing car. We know how fast they are. We know how good Toyota was here last year. And Ty Gibbs has been getting it done. I already talked about Dover last week. You go back to Auto Club, even at the beginning of the season, a nice 16th place run there. And then he was 22nd at Las Vegas, but again, ripped off all those top 10 finishes since then. And he has had a lot of good fantasy weeks. So go back to last week, 44.2, negative 15 at Talladega. But again, that's Talladega. That's a number that's to be expected, right? 20.8 the week before, but dirt race 47, Richmond 42.7, road course the week before 43.5. The week before that, I believe that was Atlanta, 65.5. So he is delivering results, and I think he's going to continue to deliver results. Again, another guy that I like to be up in the top 10 range, top 15 all day. Just going to chip away, have a good day. Love me some Ty Gibbs. Going to keep hitting him in this middle section before he gets too expensive for us. So yeah, Ty Gibbs, 7,800 is my middle tier driver.
It makes me wonder at what point in this season, like how many more races is it going to take for him to really break through? And listen, not very many rookie drivers kind of make that sudden impact on the sport. And we've celebrated ones, Jeff Gordon, that type of, even Jimmy Johnson in his first season was not all that spectacular, honestly. It took him a couple of years to sort of mature and get into the 7-time champion that he was. I mean, he was a great driver, right? But he wasn't anything like what we're talking about Ty Gibbs could possibly be. And maybe Ty Gibbs is kind of a second coming of Jimmy Johnson, where it may take another season for him to get, he's getting good, but maybe he won't reach his full potential until season 1 or season 2. But I'm wondering though, even from like a DFS and a betting standpoint, at what point the books are going to start to really take notice, because you see them noticing, right? And you see them reacting, but it just makes me wonder at which event it's going to take for him to kind of cross that next threshold.
Yeah, well, he's gonna sneak up here and steal a win at some point, and then that's gonna be where they wake up. I mean, and you look at it like fantasy points per race, he's at 26.8. If you sort it this way, a guy like Joey Logano, who's actually down to 8,400, which is a low price for him, but he's only at 27.8, just barely above that. I mean, guys like Ryan Blaney aren't that much farther above him in points per race. He's all the way up at $9,000. You go below him, there's guys, Bubba Wallace, another Toyota driver. He's only getting 23.4 per race. He's at $9,000, well below him. I mean, so yeah, Gibbs he's more than paying back for what he's costing you. And I think that's just going to continue to go up. And I think his prices, we've already seen it jump a good bit, right? I mean, from, he's up 1,400 from where he was earlier this season, but I still think he's a good value even where he's at. And I think that it's just going to continue to rise. He's going to continue to rack up these good finishes. We all know how talented he is. You saw it when he jumped into the Xfinity Series. He wins his very first race, and he just keeps winning, wins a championship in his first full-time season. Obviously, the transition to the Cup Series level is a lot tougher, and we all know that. That's why we took him at the under 1.5 wins early this season, which looks good. But I still would not be surprised to see him get one later on this season, and he's in top-tier equipment. These Joe Gibbs cars are all so fast. You combine that with his talent, you're only going to be able to hold that back for so long.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree. Our stance on Ty Gibbs is well documented. You could probably go back and play the Xfinity one.
Yeah,
You'll hear the same thing.
a lot of Ty Gibbs, but
A lot of the Ty
he's
Gibbs.
made us a lot of money too. So that's why we talk about him a lot, because it's paying off, literally.
It certainly is. Somebody who I think is going to start winning us a lot more money coming up here, and that's I think it's my week to pick Brad Keselowski. I think we flip flop weeks for
He
Brad.
makes it into the DFS show a lot.
He does.
But again,
it's like Harvick, though, right? It's like Harvick. We always remind you that Harvick is always a good play. And
speaking of Harvick, too, I know usually he's our free square. I'm scared of Harvick this week. What I saw last week and the very, very, very lack of speed in SHR, Harvick is not the free square that he normally is. I will be happy to not play much I'm not going to be able to not play any Harvick because I just can't do that to myself. But I am going to lay off him a lot. Probably won't make my cash lineup, anything like that, just because a little scared on that SHR intermediate speed. And I know that's not always affected him in the past, but as much as it affected him last week, it's really got me worried about it. So I'm going to have to see a little bit more from Harvick before I want him to play him on these bigger tracks. When we go I think Darlington is next week. When we get there, he's going to be almost locked to play. That's his type of track and stuff. But these bigger tracks, a little bit scared on Harvick.
3 straight weeks of finishes outside of the top 15, 19th place, 21st place, and a 20th place for Kevin Harvick, who we always tout as a lock for a top 10. I mean, that's a far cry from it. And he's $8,700 this week, which is not low, but it's also not high. I'm more comfortable with a guy like Keselowski. He's $8,200, so that's at least a $500 discount on it. And this is purely off of the fact that Brad continues to look and is fast. I mean, he's got a fast car this season. He's got 2 top 10 finishes in a row, of 5th place at Talladega, 8th place at Dover. He's got overall 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s in 11 starts. Over half of his finishes, or almost half of his finishes, remember, guys, math is not a strong suit for me, have been top 10 finishes for him. Finished 2nd in Atlanta, 7th at Fontana, 10th at Richmond. He's been getting it done, and he's been getting it done from the back of the field in most cases. He started 30th in Austin. Yeah, okay, I got 35th in that one, but 24th in Richmond, finished 10th. 33rd in Bristol, the dirt, finished 17th. 20th in Talladega, finished 5th. Those are some pretty stout place differential points. He may end up needing him in the 2 races that he started in the 6 car. He started 30th and 26th last season. But again, we definitely know that Brad Keselowski last season suffered a lot. If you've heard us say it once, you've heard us say it a million times, that he has suffered quite a bit. But, he came back for a 14th place finish in the spring after starting 30th, and then 1 place differential in the fall. So not really a good example of it there. But for Brad Keselowski, again, he's averaging 34.7 fantasy points per race. Got you 39 last week, 58 the week before, 18 the week before that, 42, 51, 56. He's had solid weeks all season long. And for a guy that's $8,200, that's coming off of 2 good weeks of top 10 finishes, I like his momentum. I like where RFK is right now, actually, as a team. Both cars seem to have speed, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. And they seem to be riding some good, I hate to say the word, but momentum coming into this track. And if he can qualify well, then he can hold up, and maybe he can even win this race. I don't think it's going to happen, but who knows? Anything can happen. Anything will happen. Brad does have at least 1 win on this track, and it was within the last decade. So I think I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, I love this play. RFK, we've talked about them a lot the last few weeks. They are really getting their program on track. They've been getting good, solid runs, having good finishes. So yeah, no argument for me here. Again, Brad is a guy who consistently makes it into this show for a very good reason. So I 100% back this play.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. All right. Well, we will take a dip down into the lower priced pool when we come back from the break. We're trying to give you some value here with these final plays of the slate. Be back in a minute.
Hey, everybody. If you play fantasy football, especially in auction leagues,
and or you're a whiskey fan,
yes, exactly. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast Fantasy Football Channel show, Old Fashioned Football.
coming to you every Tuesday morning, give us a listen. We'll bring you the latest fantasy football data, including
The injury report,
studs and duds,
waiver wire targets,
and suggested fab.
market movers. After all, we are the Marks,
He is my hubby.
and she's J Mark's wifey.
And we're bringing all this to you while drinking an old fashioned and giving you our honest review of a different whiskey every week.
All that and more. Hop on over, give us a listen. Come for the football, stay for the whiskey.
This ad's almost done.
Going once, going twice.
Sold.
You know you're onto the right thing when you get a text from Cody that says, "You mother," and we'll get to how and why that happened. But I love that I reached into the dock before you and took your play.
Damn it. Damn it. We'll get into that after I talk about mine. But yes, Rod, you
all right.
mother. Anyways,
Listen, my bad. I can't help it.
this is why you watch on YouTube. As Corey LaJoy is making his appearance here. Again, I know I'm the president of the fan club. Maybe you're tired of hearing me talk about him, but I don't know why you would be tired of making money, because Corey has been getting it done. He's only 5,600, Rod, $600 more than he was last week, but way too cheap for where he should be. He has been getting it done on these intermediates. The amount of speed and consistency we have seen out of this Spire 7 car with Corey LaJoy in it has been absolutely amazing. Last week at Dover, started 27th, finished 14th, even had 7 fastest laps throughout the day, 45.2 points. You go back to the other 2 intermediate races we have had earlier this season. He finished 14th at Auto Club as well. Again, that's a 2-mile track, an even bigger track where you need a little bit more speed, and they still got it done. A nice solid finish for him that day. 20th place at Las Vegas. And he was 19th in the spring race here last season as well. So we know he can get it done here at Kansas. I think it's going to be another day of stacking pennies solidly. We know that that's his motto. And again, at this cheap of a price, like you go down and you look in this area, right? And it's LaJoy, it's Gil, who's a guy that we like a lot too, but the last couple of weeks have been a little disappointing. It's Harrison Burton. Yikes. It's Noah Gragson. Legacy has been trash. It's Ty Dillon, who he might be in the other Spire car, but it's almost like 2 different teams. JJ Yaley, Brennan Poole, Josh Balicki, like none of those guys are really doing much for me other than Gilliland, really. And so, but Corey LaJoy, I think the way that he's been getting it done, they've proved to me in all 3 races on intermediates this season that they've stepped their game up even more. He can get those good solid runs. We know how good of a driver he is. He's getting the most out of that equipment. And I mean, it seems like it's almost just a plug and play every week as well, but you can almost start your lineup there. Like, okay, here's my cheap guy at the bottom. Then this gives me more room to navigate up top. Right. And yeah, Corey LaJoy, he's the guy you got to go with at 5,600 here.
And a guy like Corey LaJoy can give you the flexibility to put a guy like my next guy in there, as well as
your next guy. I go into the document tonight, right? And I sitting at my daughter's gymnastics. I'm filling this out. I type in Chastain, and I look. I see who Rod's got in his high tier spot. True XK, good pick. I type in my next guy. Who did I just give out? Gibbs, of course. I type him in the middle box. Or no, I went to type in Busher, right? Chris Busher. I type it in. Then I go to the last box and I look up and I go, this motherfucker. And he's got Chris Busher in the value spot at the bottom. And I'm like, damn it, I really wanted Chris Busher in the middle. I had to switch to Gibbs, which I'm not sad about because I love Gibbs as well. Obviously, I just got done talking him up. But yes, I screenshotted it because I had already filled it out. Sent a text to Rod. I said, you mother ... I think he knew what I meant at that point. Stealing my picks from me, but that just shows you how much I endorse this next pick from Rod.
And like I said, we know we're on to something good when both of us look at it. It's Chris Busher, if you didn't already know. And this is normally higher than I go for value guys. I tend to stick around the under 7,000, but I couldn't necessarily pass this up given that I had.
Hey, if you're saving money at the top,
yeah,
that's what you can do.
Exactly. So Chris Busher's at $7,300. Chris Busher is not somebody that is going to give you a negative day. He did give you one negative day back in Atlanta, But that was Atlanta.
Super Speedway Racing.
Yep, Super Speedway Racing. That was not his fault. But he has not given you a negative day outside of that. And in fact, if you look at his 30.9 fantasy points per races, that is better than the reigning NASCAR champion, Joey Logano, who has given you 27.8 fantasy points per races. It's better than Ty Gibbs. It's better than Justin Haley. It's better than Dillon, better than Suarez, better than Jones, better than Bubba Wallace even. So, I mean, Chris Buescher has actually done some pretty fantastic things fantasy-wise over the last season and has just gotten better. We talked about Brad Keselowski coming off of 2 top 10 finishes. Well, so is Chris Buescher. He finished 3rd at Talladega and 9th at Dover last week. In fact, he has 4 top 10 finishes, 2 top 5 finishes. This other one was at Daytona. So two super speedway top 5s and then a wreck on Atlanta super speedway, I suppose, if you want to do that. But again, from a fantasy aspect, he's given you exactly what you want out of a guy that's about $7,000. You want somebody that is going to give you a nice solid finish, a nice solid day. 30 points is still 4 times at least the return on investment for him. And a guy at $7,000 4 times is pretty damn good. If you can count on him to give you 30 points, that's not bad. I mean, a lot of these guys we talked about at the $7,000 range, there's no real guarantee that they're going to do that. I'm not consider Ryan Preece is $7,200. Can't count on him to do that. Ricky Stenhouse, I know that he's got a 35 points per race average right now, but I'm not necessarily still trusting him to hold that up. I think that's bloated by some of the stuff that he managed to get. Austin Dillon at 6,900. He's 26.1. Eric Almirola, 18.6. Austin Cindric, 16.9. The list goes on and on. At $7,300, somebody that's going to consistently get you somewhere. And then the only other guy is Chase Briscoe, but we all know how Cody's Chase Briscoe feelings are. Chase Briscoe's at 30.2.
Chase Briscoe will make or break my entire weekend. I promise you that.
Oh, he will. He will. But he's $7,500.
My highest investment is just flat out fading Briscoe.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. But again, I wouldn't take him at fantasy purposes anyway. So
no, yeah, exactly.
I love Chris Buescher in this spot specifically because if he was any higher, I don't know that I'd trust it. And if he was any lower, then I definitely hammer it. And I think everybody else would too.
Yeah, this was going to be my mid-tier play even. So I love this play. RFK has been stepping it up lately. They have been solid, consistent. They're continuing to take big steps. And so I love playing both these guys. We got a good solid lineup here. Again, we don't know starting positions yet, but still got 1,500 to play with, even putting these 6 guys in. So these guys are all definitely pieces you can use this weekend. Yeah, man. Oh, so excited to be there, Rod. It's going to be such a fun weekend. I'm really, really pumped.
I cannot wait for the flood of texts to go on. I want to face chat with I want a video chat with somebody. You get me one face chat with somebody. That's what I want.
I'll do my best.
Yep.
Might be me, but you can face chat with me.
I don't care. It's I said somebody. That's the loophole, right?
There you go.
All right, get your pen and paper out. We're going to go over all of our drivers for this DFS episode for the Advent 400 from the Kansas Speedway. Cody started you out with a watermelon man himself, old Ross Chastain at $9,600. I gave you Martin Truex Jr. at $10,000. Cody stepped down to Ty Gibbs at $7,800. I said Brad Keselowski at $8,200 was going to do you right. And then Cody and Corey LaJoy riding one more time together at $5,600. And I stole Chris Buescher from Cody, and I am not the least bit sorry at $7,300. That is your selections. Those are your selections, rather. Math, English,
whatever.
For this slate. Good stuff happening. I love it.
Yeah.
By the way,
those are some solid plays.
May the 4th be with you, my friends. If you
gotta point out the shirt. Love the shirt, Rod. Got his Yoda shirt on again. Another good reason to go check out the YouTube. We try to. I mean, I know it's a little boring just looking at us talk, but we try to have some fun props here and there at least.
I mean, listen, yeah, if for nothing else, if
I got
your
next week, Darlington, Rod, I got some surprises in store. Ooh. So you're going to want to tune into the YouTube channel next week. I'm just going to throw that out there. So go ahead and subscribe now and be ready.
Yes, please do. And not just for the surprise, but for the surprise for sure. I want to see that. So, all right, well, Cody, let's go ahead and send everybody on their way, and hopefully they build themselves a winning DFS lineup this week. But before we go, remind everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yep. Follow me on Twitter at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my work over there. Got an NFL article that's out right now. Share all kinds of picks. Follow that at Husker_Zeeb. Also follow NASCAR Gambling. I'll be posting on both those accounts this weekend, live from Kansas Speedway. I'll be down in the garage area, down on pit road. Going to be a good time. Man, again, just super pumped. Hope to bring. I know I got some really cool pictures, really cool videos last year. Plan on doing the same thing again this year.
Yep, he won't be quite as nervous this year being down in the pit road this time with his media credentials. He'll feel right at home. 169 episodes. Cody's a pro. So make sure you follow him as well. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's in between me to the back road is now. They're doing it right now. So go check them out on YouTube. The episode will probably be over by the time Rory Picks on there filling in for me.
That's going to be a good one.
That's going to be a fun one.
Definitely. And Seth was all over Truex last week, so he had the call there. Can't miss anything Rory's on for sure. So definitely go check that out.
Must see television. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Hey, we're gonna cover up some of this Hamlin Mania stuff going on. There was a lot of upsets. I think we'll talk about that. That'll be our Friday episode for just filling in. There's no Xfinity, so we'll make that happen for you. Come back tomorrow. Talk about the Hamlin Mania. Do a little bit of nonsense as well.
Maybe some bonus bets. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'll be fun too. All right. Cool. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.